reading Thoreau. Now we ask the question, where does he go after Walden? He's only there for 2 years, and so where did he go? What happened to Thoreau? I thought an erudite person would know the answer, but we're not erudite. We don't use any makeup and preparation. That's very bourgeois. Anyways, leaving Walden. In Walden, Thoreau, reading
Were
from...
you already there?
No, I'm reading at page 228. The only part you missed was he climbed a mountain. But we're leaving Walden, 228. In Walden, Thoreau would dismiss his second year there as the same as the first. Seems like he captured the experience there. You don't stay at the same place all the time. He had the experience. Folding 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days into one grand annual cycle. He experienced what he wanted to experience. But in fact, that second year was crucial to his experience. Experiment for living through the cycle of seasons a second time allowed him to compare and consolidate. For instance, during the second summer, he debated whether to plant beans again, or instead sincerity, truth, simplicity, faith, trust, innocence, and see if they will not grow in the soil. So he's trying to grow simplicity. He did that, but he also planted his crops a second time, beans. You were asking what we planted in the garden. Beans. Here's what we planted as well. Beans, tomatoes, squashes, corn, and potatoes. You see, dear, the people from Ohio in ways came from New England. In Ohio, we planted beans, tomatoes, squashes, corn, and potatoes.
Not tomatoes, you didn't.
We did plant tomatoes, of course. But we did not have cucumbers and did not have garlic and things. We did not have Mediterranean-style things. So thus we did not eat the Mediterranean diet. Only to see a hard frost on the night of June 12th kill them to the ground. Oh no. See how nature can be harsh? Well, this deflected him from repeating his agricultural experiment. It also gave him time to tend his, quote, wild stock, unquote, instead. One of his first acts at Holland had been to gather up boxes of wild fruits, red huckleberries and sand cherries, seeds of ironwood, hornbeam, and hackberry for his friend Marston Watson, busy building his house in Plymouth and planting nurseries and orchards on the surrounding 80 acres. A few months later, in February 1846, Watson and Mary Russell, Thoreau's, quote, maiden in the East, were married. Thoreau kept up a lively interest in the fortunes of their growing orchard, a Walden refuge. Now, through the winter of 1846 to 47, his interest in wild nature was exploding. His call to, quote, contact, unquote, the world found fresh means and methods in science at Katahdin. That's the mountain he climbed. He reserved one fine trout as a specimen, counting its fin rays. A couple of months earlier, he'd measured another from the river, painted its portrait in words. You see, he Remember he collected like samples of plants and stuff and keyed it out in the report on fish he reviewed in, quote, Natural History of Massachusetts. When the author's son wrote Thoreau from Harvard about collecting birds' eggs, Thoreau replied with happy reminiscences and invited him to Walden. The questions mounted. Thoreau, curious when a crew of ice cutters arrived on the pond, hacked holes in the ice to collect water temperatures. That got him asking how fish survived in the cold. The sort of question Louis Agassiz was asking too. That winter, crowds gathered weekly at Boston's Tremont Temple, as many as 5,000 at a time, to hear Agassiz's Agassiz's Lowell lectures on the, quote, plan of creation in the animal kingdom, unquote. One of his favorite tricks was to draw a single fish scale, then awing his audience, rapidly reconstruct more and more of the fish until it seemed to swim right off the blackboard. Thoreau was fired with enthusiasm. As soon as the ice melted, he was collecting specimens for the great man, and on May 3rd, Agassiz assistant James Elliott Cabot expressed Agassiz's delight and thanks for the 3 boxes of specimens Thoreau sent from Walden. A small mud turtle, quote, really a very rare species, unquote, a number of suckers plus perch, breams, and a trout. Could Thoreau perhaps send more turtles? Cabot enclosed $5 to cover expenses. He's like a naturalist, or what do you call that? The lively exchange of letters and specimens continued. Thoreau did not merely collect, pack, and ship. He also, quote, took toll, unquote, in a flood of questions. Why were his Walden pickerel different from those in the river? And the pouts, too. What species were the suckers, the perch, the shiners? What else would Agassiz have liked to have? Quote, there are also minks, muskrats, frogs, lizards, tortoises, snakes, caddis worms, leeches, mussels, and etc., etc., etc. Or rather, here they are. Would Agassiz like to come and see for himself? Near the end of May, Cabot reported that Agassiz was surprised and pleased at the extent of Thoreau's contributions, among which he found various species new to science. As for, quote, the little fox, unquote, Thoreau sent, he was doing well in his new home, the professor's backyard. And the final touch, Agassiz identified Thoreau's Walden housemate as the white-bellied mouse. That was the first specimens of that species the professor had ever seen. My goodness. This white-bellied mouse is the first time the professor had ever seen one. Thoreau's mouse. We're talking about Thoreau's mouse. A whole new career for Thoreau was coming into view, and so at least thought Emerson, who recommended Thoreau to his brother-in-law Charles T. Jackson, busy organizing a scientific expedition to survey the geology of Michigan. So now we know why he's leaving Walden. Michigan. Thoreau was so keen to go that near the end of May he told a prospective publisher of A Week that the printing must be completed soon. Since he was A Week is his book, A Week on the Merrimack River or something. It must be completed soon, since he was about to embark on a journey of considerable length. Jackson left for Michigan without him. Competition was keen for this sort of opportunity, but what if Thoreau had been selected? Might he have gone on to join Agassiz Exposition the following summer to Lake Superior? Question. This would have put Thoreau at the heart of Agassiz scientific circle, at the foundation of professional science in America. This guy is like a professional. A circle that years later would include young William James, who in 1865 joined Agassiz Exposition to Brazil. Is that the William James we know? Very interesting. William James. This was not, however, to be Thoreau's career path. Quote, the white spaces, unquote, he wished to explore were not on the map, but in the mind. Remember, Thoreau is a man of the mind. These two forms of exploration, outer and inner, converged in surprising ways. It was Agassiz's assistant Cabot who shared with Emerson his excitement over the Bhagavad Gita, which Emerson knew but had never actually seen. Surprised. I thought Emerson would have already seen this book. But it seems in June 1845, the Gita arrived in Concord. Wow. The Bhagavad Gita. I thought you knew everything. It's a major book about Krishna and India. It's Indian. We should read the Bhagavad Gita. I have read it, but I should read it the third time. How come we haven't read the whole Mahavira entire thing?
That's how mysticism comes to
I think we should read the entire Mahavira. I don't care how long it takes. We'll read it online. It can really bore some people. Which Emerson knew, but who had never actually seen. In June 1845, the Gita arrived in Concord. Soon Thoreau was reading it. He cannot, quote, he cannot be a yogi who in his actions have not abandoned all intentions, end quote. He copied into his journal the summer he was jailed. The Gita became the closest thing Thoreau had to a personal Bible. That spring, the Gita open on his desk, he watched as Frederick Tudor, quote, king, unquote, of the New England ice industry, brought in a crew of Irish laborers to harvest ice from Walden Pond, cutting 1,000 tons a day. Emerson was horrified.
They call the water away.
We're going to end horrified. We're ending this session with the Bhagavad Gita and Emerson being horrified. We're reading. We didn't get exactly the answer to his leaving Walden, but we know they took the ice and they took Walden Pond away and froze it. That's horrible. Walden, leaving Walden.